Hello, my name's Beverly Webb and I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And today I'm going to talk about J for judgment. Judgment is something that we do instinctively. We assess a situation, a person when we first meet them, and we make our own decisions on whether something's safe or not. And in that judgment, our body physically responds, and we either run, fight, or freeze. I remember the very first time I was in that space of being confused with my judgment. I was nearly 4, I was in the kitchen washing up with my dad, the man that I loved, we were laughing, and I remember having the drying up cloths in our hands. In the next moment, he took me into my bedroom, picked me up and stood me at the end of my bed. That's when my judgment told me that something was wrong here. This is the man I loved and adored. We'd been laughing just a minute ago, and now he was reacting in a different way. His body changed, his mood changed, and that's the very first time he started to sexually abuse me. I froze in that moment, absolutely confused. Feeling, even now I remember the feelings in my stomach. My judgment was telling me this wasn't right, I didn't like what was happening, and I was confused because it was the man that I loved and adored. What would I know? I focused on some chairs stacked up in front of a window. When he finished, he used the drying up cloth to clean himself up. Before we left the room, nothing was said. Ironically, it wasn't long afterwards that I was taken away with my siblings and we were taken into care. It was for neglect, actually, and we were made wards of courts. Nothing to do with the abuse, nobody knew. And so when we were sent home on regular visits to my mum and dad, that's when the abuse continued. When I was 10, we were sent back home to live with our parents. I didn't want to go home and I had night terrors, but nobody asked me anything about why. And actually, would I have had the words to say why? Because my judgment was all over the place. Here was the man, the king in my life, the man I looked up to. And I was hearing from everybody else around me about how you respect your elders, how you respect your parents, and that every normal family, the father and the mother love their children and the children love them back. I'm grateful though, because I was taken back into care at the age of 13. And whilst I was there, I was nearly 14 and I was just getting an interest in boys. And something wasn't right. I was also sat down and I was told about self-respect and the difference between sex and making love. And if a man, particularly in my case, and for others it may be men or women, but whoever it is you're with, out of love they respect you and you have a choice to say no. And self-respect is your own control, your own decision. I then realised exactly in that moment what had been happening. What had become the norm with my dad in his acts of love, I realised weren't love. Ironically, at that moment, the full horror hit me. And so, when I saw him the next weekend, and ironically he took me to the house of his friend who'd also been abusing me, I quietly said no. That was it. It stopped. No more. And that's when the full force of judgment came in. Because in myself, I suddenly felt responsible. Why hadn't I said no before? Why didn't I listen to my judgment? And yes, at that age I took on full responsibility. And then I carried on for the next 14, 25, 30 years, blaming myself, judging myself, using judgment against me, worrying that if I told anybody the real truth about the person that I was on the inside, they wouldn't really want to help me. They wouldn't like me. They wouldn't want to know me. And that's the sad thing about judgment, because we become the biggest judges of ourselves. And actually, it's not our place to be judging ourselves in a bad place, in a bad way. And we don't give the chance for anybody else to be able to judge us in their own right way too. It took a lot of hard work through counselling and some coaching and a lot of self-work to realise that I and you and any other survivor, we are unique and wonderful individuals. And as children, we didn't have a choice. And even sometimes as young people, we learnt the wrong way what love actually means from the people around us, the adults around us, the people in power. So what I say to anybody else is now I use my judgment in the right way, but I use the judgment for myself. How does this feel? Is this right?